The spring rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse office as Marcus Whitfield signed another contract, his fountain pen scratching across the expensive paper with practiced precision. At 42, he had built Whitfield Industries from a single construction company into an empire spanning real estate, hospitality, and luxury developments across 3 continents. His name appeared regularly in Forbes, his face graced business magazines, and his romantic life provided endless fodder for gossip columns. Yet for all his success, Marcus found himself feeling oddly hollow on this particular Tuesday afternoon. His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Mr. Whitfield, there's a situation in the lobby. Security is asking for guidance." Marcus frowned, setting down his pen. "What kind of situation?" "A child, sir. She's asking to see you specifically. She's been here for 20 minutes and she won't leave. Says it's urgent." "A child?" Marcus's mind raced through possibilities. Charity event? Make-a-wish request? His PR team usually handled these matters. How old? 7 or 8, they estimate. She's alone, which is why security is concerned. But she seems determined, and she knows your full name. Something in his assistant's tone made Marcus stand. "I'll be right down." The elevator ride to the ground floor felt longer than usual. Marcus straightened his tie, preparing his professional smile, the one he used for unexpected situations. When the doors opened, he immediately spotted her, a small girl with dark, curly hair pulled into 2 ponytails, wearing a yellow raincoat that was soaked through. She sat on one of the leather chairs in the lobby, her feet dangling above the floor, clutching a small backpack to her chest. 2 security guards stood nearby, their expressions caught between concern and confusion. The moment she saw Marcus, the girl jumped down from the chair. Her brown eyes locked onto his with an intensity that seemed far too old for her young face. "You're Marcus Whitfield," she said. It wasn't a question. "I am." Marcus approached slowly, kneeling to be at her eye level. His expensive suit pressed against the marble floor, but he didn't care. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Penelope. Penelope Wright." She pronounced each syllable carefully, as if she'd practiced. "Everyone calls me Penny." "Well, Penny, it's nice to meet you. Are your parents here? Is someone with you?" Penny's small face crumpled slightly before she composed herself with visible effort. "My mom died 3 weeks ago. Car accident." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He glanced at the security guards, who looked equally shocked. "I'm so sorry. Who's taking care of you now?" "My aunt, Aunt Diane, but—" Penny's voice wavered. She reached into her backpack with trembling hands. "Before Mom died, she was in the hospital. She told me something. She said I needed to find you. She said you might be... She said I should ask you something important." Marcus felt his throat tighten. A strange sense of foreboding crept up his spine. "What did she want you to ask me?" Penny pulled out a photograph protected in a plastic sleeve. She held it up with both hands, her eyes searching Marcus's face. "Do you know my real father?" The world seemed to tilt sideways. Marcus stared at the photograph. It showed him, unmistakably him, about 9 years younger, his arm around a beautiful woman with dark, curly hair and the same warm brown eyes as the child before him. They were standing on a beach at sunset, laughing, their faces pressed together. The woman was Jessica Wright. His hand shook as he took the photograph. Memories flooded back with overwhelming force. Summer 9 years ago, the charity gala in the Hamptons. Jessica had been working as an event coordinator, and they'd talked all night. One conversation had led to another, which led to late-night walks on the beach, which led to 3 months of the most genuine relationship Marcus had experienced in his carefully curated life. Then she disappeared. No explanation, no goodbye, just a brief text message saying she couldn't do this anymore, that their worlds were too different, that it would never work. He'd tried to find her, called dozens of times, but her number had been disconnected. Eventually, he'd forced himself to move on, burying the hurt under layers of work and subsequent relationships that never quite measured up. "Jessica," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "You knew my mom?" Penny's voice was so hopeful it physically hurt. Marcus looked from the photograph to the child's face, really seeing her for the first time. The shape of her eyes, the slight dimple in her left cheek, the way she tilted her head when she was thinking. His own mother had the same dimple. His sister did too. "When's your birthday, Penny?" "February 14th, Valentine's Day." She said it with a slight grimace, as if she'd heard too many jokes about it. Marcus did the math quickly. 9 years ago. May through August. Jessica had left in late August. February would have been 6 months later. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. "Why did your mum tell you to find me?" he asked carefully, though he already knew the answer. Some deep, instinctive part of him already knew. Penny's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back with fierce determination. "She said you were a good man. She said she made a mistake leaving you, but she was scared. She said I deserved to know the truth." Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. "She said you're my real father, not the man whose name is on my birth certificate, you." The lobby seemed to spin. Marcus gripped the photograph tighter, his mind reeling. A daughter. He had a daughter, 8 years old, standing in front of him, looking at him with his own mother's eyes. "Does your aunt know you're here?" he managed to ask. Penny bit her lip and shook her head. "She was sleeping. She's been really sad since Mom died. I took the bus. I saved my allowance. I knew where to find you because Mom kept newspaper articles about you in a box. She said you were important." Marcus stood slowly, his mind racing through 1,000 implications, 1,000 questions. But all of that could wait. Right now, there was a child. His child, who had just lost her mother and was standing in front of a stranger, hoping for... What? Acceptance? Love? A new family? He looked down at Penny, this brave little girl who'd crossed the city alone to find answers, and something in his chest cracked open. Every carefully constructed wall he'd built around his heart, every defense mechanism he'd developed through years of business dealings and shallow relationships, crumbled to dust. "We need to call your aunt," he said gently. "She must be worried sick." Penny nodded, fresh tears finally spilling over. "Are you mad? That I came here?" Marcus knelt again and, acting on pure instinct, pulled her into a gentle hug. She was so small, so fragile. "No, sweetheart, I'm not mad. Not at all." As Penny buried her face in his shoulder, Marcus looked up at his security team. "Clear my schedule for the rest of the day, and someone get me Donald Fletcher on the phone." Fletcher was the best family attorney in the state. Because if Penny was truly his daughter, and every cell in his body screamed that she was, then everything was about to change. His carefully ordered life, his bachelor lifestyle, his freedom to make decisions based solely on business considerations, all of it was over. And strangely, terrifyingly, wonderfully, Marcus found he didn't mind at all. The taxi ride to Penny's apartment in Queens felt surreal. Marcus sat in the back seat with the little girl beside him, acutely aware of how out of place his tailored suit looked against the worn vinyl upholstery. Penny clutched her backpack and stared out the window, occasionally glancing at him as if to confirm he was still there. "Tell me about your mom," Marcus said softly. "What was she like?" Penny's face brightened slightly. "She was really funny. She made the best pancakes, shaped like animals. And she sang all the time, even though she said she had a terrible voice." A sad smile crossed her face. "She worked at a hotel, not a fancy one. She was a manager. She worked really hard." Marcus's chest tightened. Jessica had been brilliant at event coordination, creative and organized. She could have worked at any luxury hotel in the city. Why had she settled for less? The answer, he realized with a sinking feeling, was probably sitting right next to him. Single motherhood had likely forced difficult choices. Was she happy? It felt like a selfish question, but he needed to know. Penny considered this seriously, mostly. "But sometimes I heard her crying at night. She thought I was asleep, but I wasn't. And sometimes she'd look at that box with your pictures and newspaper articles, and she'd get this really sad look." She turned to Marcus. "Why did she leave you if you were so important?" How could he explain adult complications to an 8-year-old? "Sometimes people get scared," Marcus said carefully. "My life was very different from your mum's. Lots of attention, cameras, people always watching. Maybe she thought that wasn't the right world for a family." "That's stupid," Penny said bluntly. "If people love each other, they should be together. That's what matters." Out of the mouths of babes, Marcus thought. An 8-year-old had just summarized what he'd spent years trying to figure out. The apartment building was a modest 5-story structure with faded brick and a slightly crooked awning. Marcus paid the taxi driver and followed Penny inside, climbing 3 flights of stairs to apartment 3C. Penny knocked tentatively. The door flew open within seconds. A woman in her mid-30s with blonde hair pulled into a messy bun stood there, her face streaked with tears and panic. "Penny? Oh my God, Penny!" She yanked the little girl into a fierce hug. "I woke up and you were gone. I've been calling the police. She stopped abruptly, seeing Marcus standing in the hallway. "Who are you?" Diane Wright? Marcus asked. Yes, who the hell are you and why is my niece with you? My name is Marcus Whitfield. I think we need to talk. Recognition flickered across Diane's face, followed by shock, then something like anger. You! Jessica's... She looked down at Penny, then back at Marcus. Get inside, both of you. The apartment was small but clean, filled with moving boxes labeled in neat handwriting. Photographs of Jessica covered nearly every surface. Jessica smiling, Jessica with Penny as a baby, Jessica blowing out birthday candles. Marcus felt like he'd stepped into a shrine to a life he should have been part of. Diane sent Penny to her room to change out of her wet clothes, then turned on Marcus with barely contained fury. Do you have any idea what you've done? She's 8 years old and she took a bus across the city by herself. She could have been hurt or kidnapped or... I know, Marcus interrupted gently. And I'm sorry. But Diane, she came to me. She showed me a photograph and asked if I knew her real father. Diane's anger deflated like a punctured balloon. She sank onto the worn couch, her head in her hands. Jessica made me promise not to tell you. She made me swear. Even when she was dying, even when I begged her to reconsider, she refused. Why? The question came out more desperately than Marcus intended. Because she was terrified. Diane looked up, her eyes red. You have to understand, when Jessica found out she was pregnant, you were everywhere. Every magazine, every news site. There were articles about your company going public, about you dating some actress, about your family's wealth. She panicked. She thought you'd either not believe her or worse, that you'd try to take the baby away. She'd grown up in foster care, Marcus. She had nightmares about losing her child. The revelation hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. I would never have... I know that. I told her that. But fear isn't rational. Diane's voice cracked. She loved you. She really did. She kept every article about you, showed Penny pictures sometimes, but she convinced herself that keeping Penny safe meant keeping her away from your world. Marcus sat heavily in the armchair across from Diane. What changed? Why did she tell Penny the truth before she died? Guilt. Regret. The clarity that comes when you know you're leaving your child behind. Diane wiped her eyes. Jessica was terrified of dying and leaving Penny alone. I'm doing my best, but I work 2 jobs, and I have my own 2 kids. Jessica wanted Penny to have options, to know that she had another parent out there. She made Penny promise to wait until after the funeral, but Diane gestured helplessly. Kids don't always follow instructions, Marcus finished, especially brave ones. She's exactly like Jessica, Diane said with a weak smile, stubborn, determined, fierce when she loves someone. Penny emerged from the hallway wearing dry clothes, jeans and a purple sweater that had clearly been Jessica's, judging by how it hung on her small frame. She looked between the adults nervously. Are you mad, Aunt Diane? Diane opened her arms, and Penny rushed into them. I was scared, baby, so scared. Please don't ever do that again. I'm sorry. Penny's voice was muffled against Diane's shoulder. I just needed to know. Mom said he was good, and I thought maybe... She didn't finish, but Marcus understood. She'd thought maybe she wouldn't be so alone. Penny, Marcus said, and the little girl turned to look at him. Would it be okay if I had a test done? A medical test that can prove whether I'm really your father? Penny nodded solemnly. Mom said you'd probably want that. She said it was the smart thing to do. Of course Jessica would have thought of that. She'd always been practical, even in matters of the heart. But I already know, Penny added quietly. You have the same dimple as me, and your eyes do the same crinkly thing when you smile. Marcus felt his throat close up. He did smile then, unable to help himself, and watched Penny's face light up as she recognized the similarity. The test will take a few days, he said. But Penny, regardless of what it says, I want you to know something. Your mother was the most genuine person I ever met. She made me laugh more than anyone else ever has. And if she trusted you with the truth, then I'm going to trust it too. He paused, making sure she was listening. I believe you're my daughter, and if you'll let me, I'd like to be your father, the kind of father you deserve. Penny's eyes went wide. Really? Even if the test says no? Even if, Marcus confirmed, though he knew in his bones what the test would say. But especially when it says yes. Diane was crying again, but these were different tears. Marcus, we can't afford. I'm already drowning here. You won't have to afford anything, Marcus said firmly. If Penny is my daughter, and I believe she is, then I take care of my family, all of my family. That includes you, Diane. You've been there for them when I couldn't be. I don't want charity, Diane said, her pride showing through. It's not charity, it's responsibility and gratitude. Marcus looked around the apartment, at the boxes, at the pictures of Jessica smiling from every corner. "Were you planning to move?" Diane nodded miserably. "I can't afford this place on my own. Jessica had life insurance, but it's not much, and with 3 kids now." "Don't move," Marcus said. "Or if you do, let me help you find something better. Somewhere with enough room for everyone. Let me do this." Penny was watching him with those impossibly large eyes, hope and fear warring on her young face. "Does this mean you'll come visit me?" Marcus thought of his penthouse, his freedom, his carefully structured life. Then he looked at this child, his child, who'd lost her mother and crossed a city alone, just to find him. "I'll come visit you every single day if you want me to," he promised. "We have a lot of time to make up for, you and me." For the first time since entering the apartment, Penny truly smiled. It transformed her entire face, made her look less like a grieving child and more like the little girl she should be. But as Marcus smiled back, his phone buzzed insistently in his pocket. He glanced at it discreetly.